Growing up as a kid, I had an Xbox, so due to exclusives being a thing, I missed out on playing the infamous games as they came out. However, a game I could play that was similar was the Prototype games.
I'm told that hurts.
Now, before jumping into Infamous, I was told it was like Prototype, but the story was actually good and the gameplay was more well polished. And it turns out Infamous is exactly that and one hell of a good time. Now, I have only played Second Son, so I am unfamiliar with the rest of the story and universe outside of this game, other than the main character from the first two games being named Cole and strictly using electricity powers. However, in Second Son, Dawson can get up to 3 powers for most of the game time, and then a 4th one right on the last level. These 4 powers being Smoke, Neon, Video, and Concrete. All of which having slightly different play styles. All of the powers have different variations of the same power. You'll always get some kind of projectile, dash, melee, grenade, missile, and super. Starting with Smoke, your dash is kind of like a Dark Souls roll, where pressing the button to dash gives you iframes for a short period of time. You can also use dashing to travel through air vents to gain air time. Combining this with your glide and air dash abilities will be your main mode of transport with this power. Your main projectile is a single fire smoke ball which you can shoot almost as fast as you can pull the trigger, but after 5 shots there's a little cooldown before you can shoot again. The smoke grenade is used to stun enemies when thrown, allowing you to go up to them and subdue or kill them with your melee attack. Your melee weapon in this game is a chain, which you imbue with whatever power you are currently using. The smoke ability, Delsin makes his chain a smoke whip, which really gives off God of War vibes. Smoke missile sounds exactly like it sounds. The smoke missile is slow travelling through the air, so you'll either have to be close to use it or lead your shots with it. The super ability is kind of like a kill streak, where if you have good karma, committing good deeds fill the super up by 1 bar, whereas if you have evil karma, committing evil deeds fills it up by 1 bar. With Smoke, the super is called an orbital drop, where Delsin flies up into the air and smashes to the ground, causing massive damage in a large area. The Neon ability is probably my favourite power to use. This power is a speedster power, so think of heroes like The Flash from DC. The dash is a very fast, short distance sprint where you can run up walls, which you can upgrade to be an infinite sprint. The main projectile for this power is a ball of neon, similar to the smoke ball. However, this one has a slower fire rate, and it only takes 4 shots to reach its cooldown instead of 5. The neon grenade throws enemies into the air and slows them down, so that when you shoot them, you can either subdue or kill them, depending on what karma level you have. With your melee, you imbue your chain with neon, which turns it into something that looks a little bit like a lightsaber, and the melee is much faster than the smoke's one. The missile for neon is a very powerful, slow charge up explosive laser. The super for neon is called the Radiant Sweep, where you let out a stasis field in a large area, pulling enemies into the air, where you then shoot a volley of neon at them, killing or subduing enemies. The video power is also very fun to use. The dash allows you to fly with wings for a short distance, which you can also use to go up walls and through the air. You can also dash into radar dishes to gain massive airtime. The main projectile is a machine gun of video energy, where after a long burst there is a small cooldown. Instead of a grenade, the video power allows you to turn invisible, whilst leaving a hologram of yourself in your previous position. The melee turns the chain into a large sword, which 2-hit kills most enemies, and is very slow to swing compared to the other powers. The missile for video shoots out 3 large swords, which slightly track enemies and deal massive damage. The super is called the Hellfire Swarm, where Delsin summons a horde of demons to kamikaze the ground, causing explosions and massive damage. Now, I will not be going into detail with the concrete power, as you only get it at the very end of the game in the final boss fight, which is very unfortunate because for the fight it was actually pretty fun to use. The 3 main powers you use throughout the game are very fun and unique, and I have a really good time playing around with them. I was really surprised at how smooth they all felt and how none of them necessarily felt more OP than the others. Now, before talking about the actual story, I would like to note that I chose to do a good karma story. The game starts with a Star Wars-like text scroll explaining what I'm assuming is part of the previous game's story. It explains that 7 years ago, a group of people called Conduits acquired control over certain natural elements and were able to use them as weapons. The Department of Unified Protection, more commonly known as the DUP or DUPS, was formed to hunt down the Conduits, reclassifying them as bioterrorists. However, it is believed that all bioterrorists have been captured, leading to the government cutting funding and forcing the DUP to hand over all prisoners to the military. We are then introduced to the main protagonist, Delsin Rowe, who is a member of the Akomish tribe. Delsin is well known for being a local degenerate, which is quite the opposite to his brother Reggie, who is the town's sheriff. One day, Delsin is spray painting a billboard where his brother comes to arrest him. After running away and being caught by Reggie, a military truck crashes where we see two prisoners escaping. One of those prisoners, named Hank, was stuck under the truck and Delsin helped him. After seeing that Reggie is a cop, Hank takes us hostage, and upon touching him, Delsin absorbs his powers. Hank then escapes and tries to make a distraction by setting a nearby factory on fire, with an elderly woman named Betty that Delsin is very fond of trapped inside. Delsin uses his newfound powers to go save her. However, all the commotion gets the attention of the DUP and their leader, Brooke Augustine, who herself is a conduit, who can control concrete. With two of the three prisoners unaccounted for, and Delsin spending a prolonged period of time alone with Hank, Augustine decides to torture Delsin by shooting concrete through his legs to gain information. Not being satisfied with what he tells her, she decides to torture the entire town the exact same way. After waking up a few days later in a makeshift hospital, we are told the only way the concrete is coming out of the people's bodies is the same way it went in. Upon hearing this, Delsin decides to go to Seattle, where Augustine is hunting down the other two conduits from the car crash, and absorb her power to heal his people. So overall, I found this game very fun, and the story on paper is good. However, there are moments in the story I did find very bland or confusing. For example, at the beginning, Reggie seems to flip-flop between letting us use our power or being adamantly against it. The game is also an open-world game, which does mean Ubisoft-like repetitive side missions, with the only ones being really enjoyable is taking out the DUP outposts and spray painting buildings. But I have to say the game's strong suit is more so the gameplay, fighting enemies, than the story. So, in conclusion, I'd give this game a solid 7 out of 10. The main drawback being that most of the middle part of the story is pretty boring. However, it does have a strong start and end. I cannot remember anything from the middle other than meeting the other two conduits in Seattle. The whole rest of it is just mush. The main draw for this game is definitely the gameplay. It is so fun fighting enemies, and it is so smooth.